And that's, that's where, when the ice melts, again, if I start giving away spoilers, just hit me. I think that's
I
think that's what you did last time. When the ice melts, things are a little tenuous.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've moved on to Where the Wings Rise, which is the new book. And I think what we've got is a progression, not just in the series, but in the characters. When the ice melts, they're trying to get through a particular situation and go through some hurdles and some obstacles. Now things are starting to take shape, and there are further challenges between the sisters.
Yes.
So again, no spoilers, but tell me a little bit about the progression from the first book to the second book. And then as a writer, tell me some about, that after you finish the first book, you probably just blazed through 300 pages of the second book without any revisions at all.
Oh, sure.
And then just threw it straight to the publisher.
Wrong. I wrote this second book 3 times. So the book that you see is the third book, because a sequel is incredibly hard. You've already set up characters, you've created a world, everything is set in motion, and you can't depart from that. So a sequel is a little bit like being given a lot of random ingredients and being told to make a cake. You can't start from scratch, you can't choose what you're going to do. But it was very important to me in the sequel to create a sense of the fact that as we develop as people, as we go through change in our lives, it is not an instantaneous process. We don't get to the end of our book and say, oh well, I've made this decision to have a new life. Again, no spoilers from the first book, but the first book ends with Addison making a very significant decision that will move her in the right direction. But that's not enough. Our journeys don't end there. We have to do the work to follow through with that decision, to take those steps, to reach out to healing. And so that's what this book is about. It is about the process of letting God work in us, and we ourselves being willing to take his hand and let him lead us.
And making the decision is often the first step.
Yes.
And then there are so many incremental steps that have to happen after that.
Right.
So that you can follow through on your promise and his promise for you.
Yes.
And that can be, we've all experienced that, right?
Yes.
We've all been there. And all 4 of your central characters go through that. Funny you were talking about those decisions. I had written down here, sometimes the best decision is the hardest decision.
Yes.
And sometimes the hardest decision is to let things go and let things just actually. And one of the characters, Bailey, I was going to speak about, is one of the characters that has to make a difficult decision, and I really enjoyed reading the way that you wrote. She was under a bit of stress.
Yes.
Tell me about writing that kind of a scene, and then I want you to read a little bit from the earlier part of the book, so that people can get an idea of what your characters are. But tell me a little bit about Bailey. She's a side character, but I think a very important character.
Yes. So there are a lot of characters in this book who have to make very brutal decisions, but Bailey has a very hard one. And we're not going to spoil it. You have to read the book. But it is difficult sometimes as an author, because you care about your characters. You love your characters. They're your friends. You don't want to put them through what they have to go through. But at the same time, you have to remember that if you don't, they will stay stuck in where they are. They are believing a lie. They are believing something that is warped and broken about themselves and about the world, and they will cling to that, and they will not give it up until something is pushed to the breaking point. And so as an author, you have to put them to the worst thing that can happen, and then make it a little bit worse. But Bailey's story, though, continues the theme, which is that of healing and that of making those difficult choices, because it's usually those choices that we really don't want to make, that really push us outside our comfort zone, that lead us home.
And again, without any spoilers at all, the decision that she makes is one that it's not going to be easy whether she goes left or right.
Right.
There's not a cut and clear
right
decision that she's going to make. She's either going to do this or that, and either way, y'all, it's going to be hard. And you just hope that she makes the right decision. So,
yes.
You want to go ahead and read part of that first passage?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is from an excerpt from chapter 2. Addison's palms were sweaty as she headed toward the Blue Feather Boutique. Would this job offer from this Skyla Wingo woman really be a good fit for her? With ambient lighting and the haunting lilt of Native American flute music, the store had the nobility of an elegant showroom. Addison was just glancing around when a silent figure flicked into her peripheral vision. She yelped and jerked away, right into a lamp that clattered to the floor. "Oh, I'm sorry." She cringed as she stared at the tall woman who'd startled her. Copper bracelets jingling, the woman scooped up the lamp and settled it on the cabinet. "Please be careful. Everything in here is a unique creation." "Well, hello to you too." Addison studied the woman's face, resolute features and veiled dark eyes, without the hint of a smile. "Are you Skyla Wingo?" "Yes." The woman didn't offer her hand. "But the store is not open for business yet." Actually, I'm here to maybe work. Mr. Job, he recommended me to you, I think." "Oh, yes. Well, as I am sure Laz mentioned, we sell the creations of local artisans, crafts and furniture, and paintings too." Skyla waved toward a separate wall where sconces illuminated a checkerboard of canvases. "They're beautiful." Addison inspected a painting of a chick bursting from a shell, then blinked at the name across the bottom. "This is yours? You painted this?" Skyla actually smiled. "Yes." Well, the woman could stand to improve her interpersonal skills, but clearly she had an artistic gift. Addison squinted at the words across the top of the canvas. "What does that mean?" To Corinthians. It is a scripture. It says that those who hold out hearts to God are new creations. They are broken down and built back up as He changes them. There was a certain intrigue about the idea. "Do you believe that?" "Yes." The word was quiet, but it held a bedrock certainty. "I believe it like I believe in the wind and the waters. Like I believe in the rivers that flow from the heart of the mountains. Like I believe in the snows that fall and the suns that melt and the great wheels that spin the stars." The music of the words, the intensity of Skyla's faith, caught Addison off guard. "That's neat." Skyla fixed Addison with her gaze. "You have never lived that verse?" Addison bristled. "I'm sorry. Forgive me, but I have never met someone who did not want a second chance at some time or another." A second chance. Wasn't that what she'd come to the mountains for? "Well, yes," Addison sighed, her irritation fading. "That's why I'm here. I came to make some things right. Things I messed up when..." Stop. Skyla didn't need to know her whole biography. Skyla nodded deliberately. "I see." If her employment hung on a spiritual confession, she was doomed. "Do I have to be a believer to work here?" "Of course not." Skyla dismissed the idea with a flick of her hand. "My husband and I have worked with the birds for years. We understand that healing takes time, and it is a long journey. I merely wanted to know if you were on it." Addison gave up. In just a moment, Skyla would quit talking in riddles and simply tell her that her help wasn't needed, and then she would have lost her one chance at a job, and then Avery would say, "Sometimes the wings are folded at first, but they always open." Skyla seemed to be speaking to herself. "What was that?" But Skyla simply shook her head and clapped her hands softly. "Very well, you are hired. Come to the back room and you may begin."
So Addison still has some growing to do.
Yes.
In this book.
Yes.
She's still got a little bit of growth to take care of. That was wonderful, by the way. I love to hear your writing. I really do. talk a little bit about the relationship between Addison and Avery.
Mm-hmm.
Avery was also in that passage.
Yes.
Avery is the older sister.
Yes. Yes.
Talk a little bit about their relationship, how that has continued to develop.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a lot of cases when you go through strife together, it can bond you together. That comes with more expectations, which can then lead to more strife. It's a delicate little dance that we dance.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that between the two sisters who love each other so much.
Writing the relationship between them was one of the most fun parts of this book. And that's because they have such a nuanced and complicated and complex relationship. Yes, Avery is the older sister. She's 4 years older. And as you know, if you've read When the Ice Melts, then she was sort of put in the position of having to take care of Addison from a very young age for both of them. And so that has created a dynamic of, are you my sister or are you my parent? And they're having a very hard time finding their way past that, especially Avery, because to her, Addison will always be the reckless, rebellious, crazy teenager who needs to be guarded and watched over at all costs.
That's the other side of that coin. Are you my sister or are you my daughter?
Yes.
You know, are you the person that I must take care of?
Yes.
And Addison, by the time of this book, is
21.
21. Okay. So old enough to take care of herself.
One would think.
Kinda. So yes, it's a really interesting dynamic you built between them. Now we've left the guys out.
We have.
Let's talk a little bit about the guys. The question I have here, how does confidence, or either the lack of or the abundance of confidence, plague your two main male characters, and why should we want bad things to happen to Brian?
Well, I think the question about Brian is one that will be self-evident from the moment you pick up the book. But yes, confidence is a huge theme for both of them, and yes, one has way too much, and one could stand to have some more. So Darius really could use a dose of confidence or courage or something to help him move forward in life.
And he's a very accomplished person.
Yes.
Don't think because he needs a jolt of confidence that he is not accomplished very much in his life.
But usually it is the people who accomplish a lot who still don't feel that they have done enough.
Right.
And I think that's what we see with Darius, especially as he also is moving forward from the events of the first book and trying to start a new chapter in his own life.
And dealing with a lot of his own demons.
Dealing with a lot of his own demons, yes.
Absolutely. So, well, the other character that I wanted to talk about, and we talked about this earlier today, is Laz.
Yes.
Laz is one of my favorite characters.
Many people say that.
Do really?
Yes.
Yes. And that surprises me because he's a kind of a little bit of a bit. We've all met Laz. You have all met Laz, okay? He's that rough talking, gruff exterior kind of guy with a heart of gold.
Yes.
All right. Tell me how much fun was it to write him? Because you not only wrote him in character, but you wrote him in vernacular.
Yes.
You wrote with his style of verbiage and the way that he talks and the way that you did it. Number one, how hard was that? Because you had to misspell a whole bunch of words. How hard was that for your editor? Where's Mrs. Ohm? Was that hard for you to let her misspell all those words? No. It was good. It fit well with the character, didn't it?
It was a perfect fit.
I thought so too.
So, it just looked like it belonged.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about him, and then I know you had a passage you wanted to read as well that involved Laz.
So a lot of people after reading the first book said, well, I want to know more about Laz. What's his backstory? What happened to him to get him where he was? And you don't get the full story in this book, but you get a little bit more. So hopefully people are going to find that very interesting. Was it hard to write him? You would think, but no. Just because once you have a character in your mind, they live and breathe and move and have their being, and so you can see them, you can hear them, you can hear the inflection and how they would talk, and so it's really more like describing something that you're watching play out versus trying to create or conjure this effect that you want to have.
And like I said, we've all met.
My spell check hates him, though. I will say that.
Grammarly does not like Laz. He's a gentle creature.
Yes.
He really is. But he doesn't want anybody to know it.
That's true.
Right?
Yes.
He's very guarded, and he's a tough guy.
And he has a very instrumental role in this book because he brings in the hawk.
Yes.
So, yes. Yes.
Go ahead.
So the first scene was from Addison's point of view, and this is from Avery's. So you'll get to hear some of her voice too. A project. That's what her boss had said. But knowing Laz, it could be anything. Avery frowned as she stepped into the empty store. Laz? Addison glanced around and shook her head. Avery, could he be at his house? Maybe. Let's check. Sure enough, Laz was near his little house behind the shop, talking to a deeply tanned man with distinctively native features. Howdy, gals. Miss Avery, you remember my buddy, Chayton Wingo. Hi there. Chayton shook their hands with his brilliant smile. Laz said you were coming to help. Laz huffed. 'Cause he's dumped a big old headache on me. So what is it? Avery couldn't wait any longer. Chayton had already opened the hatch of his SUV. He slid on a pair of leather gloves and then retrieved a large box that looked somewhat like a pet carrier. He reached inside and pulled out the most magnificent bird. Avery gasped. The bird was as tall as her forearm, with splendid mahogany feathers and eyes that looked beyond. That's a hawk. Her laugh was an exhale of shock. But where did he come from? From the hushed tone in Addison's voice, she was as impressed as Avery was. Laz folded his arms with an odd expression. Che runs a raptor rehab center here in Estes. Him and his folks get birds that have been hurt. Then they fix them up and send them back out. Chayton took up the story. This poor guy was hit by a car about a month ago. When he was brought to our center, he had multiple injuries, including a broken wing. Avery had already noticed a stark white patch of bandage on the bird's side. Anyhow, he's had surgery for that, but now he just needs a quiet place to rest and keep healing. Addison leaned closer. She hadn't looked this interested in anything for the whole time she'd been in Estes. Well, how long will he be here? Chayton shrugged. It will depend on a lot of factors. His wing has to heal, of course, and then he'll have to re-engage the muscles that atrophied during the healing process before the wings will rise. The words crackled against Avery's spirit like splitting lightning and shaking earth and howling wind. Her breath was a gasp against the grip. A knowing. Here? The wings will rise. Sky for a single snap. A spin of sky, translucent blue, shredded clouds swirling, and somehow over and around and within the clouds, wings whirled. Vertigo whipped at her and she was stumbling. Peace. The wings will rise. The sky she saw blazed suddenly to sunset glory, and then she was back in the autumn day. Sun gentle on her neck, and mountains ringing the horizon reassuringly. Are you okay? Avery put a hand over her pounding heart and glanced at Addison. Yes. She shoved her trembling hands in her pockets. She wouldn't mention the knowing. The messages she sometimes received from the God who'd moved these mountains had always made Addison uncomfortable. I'm fine. She swallowed the last of the dizziness. But for the rest of the day, she couldn't stop thinking about the hawk and the knowing. The wings will rise. The knowings were always cryptic, but this was different. The swirling sky, the repetition. How was she supposed to patchwork the pieces? No matter how she puzzled over it, she couldn't unravel the thread. So finally, she released. Okay, God of the mountains, you will show me in your time. So somehow, whatever it meant, the wings would rise.
I just like the way that you're writing places in the moment with the character.
Thank you.
You know, we're there, you know, with the hawk, or in the store, or at Estes. Estes, one of your favorite
Yes.
places in the entire
Yes.
world. Talk about your connection with Estes Park and with Colorado a little bit.
I love Estes Park. It is just absolutely my place. We are blessed to visit there a couple of times every year, and so when I was choosing a setting for this series, it came very easily that I wanted to introduce people to the beauty of the Rocky Mountains And it's such an epic and dynamic setting, and one where you can really feel God, at least I do. And it's been so much fun setting the books there, and in fact having actually local bookstores in the area carrying and selling the book in their local author section. So that has been a really great blessing as well.
One of my favorite things that I've read of yours, actually, and I'm probably going to butcher it because I'm going off script here, was the passage that you did in your devotional, I believe it was, or it may have been a blog entry, where you were talking to a shop owner in Estes about,
Yes.
I live in Arkansas and it hardly ever snows there, and I really love it. It's so beautiful up here. And the shop owner was like, beautiful? It's hard to drive in. Nobody knows how to drive in this stuff. It's terrible. It's cold. I'm cold. Are you cold?
Yeah.
And you know, and it was just a real reflection of appreciate what you have
Yes.
where you are, right? You
Yes.
wish it snowed more here.
Yes.
You know, they wish it didn't
They-
snow
they
as much
do.
up
Yes,
there.
Yes, it starts snowing there in September some years, and it can easily go through May. So.
Yeah. And I thought that was a really good reflection of two different perspectives. So, well, let's talk about your blog. Let's talk about A Year in the Woods a little bit, and Words from the Wilderness. First of all, who all has read the first book? How many of you have read the first book? Several of you? Okay. You're in for a treat, I promise you. If you haven't been introduced to Ashlyn's writing, the blog is a really good way to do it. Why don't you talk about that a little bit, what they will get with the blog? And I think we talked a little bit before, what don't they get with the blog, right? Because sometimes you sign up for something and you get more than what you were looking for.
Yes. So my blog is wordsfromthewilderness.com. I put out a monthly devotional post that is something to do with nature and God and Scripture and how we can see Him, in the world He's made. I also send out a monthly newsletter about mid-month, and that can have all kinds of things in it. I put short stories in there, poems in there, any kind of news about my books, book releases, special offers, all kinds of things go into that one email. And it's important to me that I don't send a ton of emails and fill inboxes that already are full. So I confine everything to one or two emails a month.
Completely free. You don't have to have a credit card
No,
to sign up for
no.
this.
And you get 2 bonus scenes. I have actually a backstory scene from each book. So When the Ice Melts and Where the Wings Rise both have a bonus scene, and you only get that on my website when you sign up. They're available to download, and they're a short story in and of themselves.
Okay, very good. And I very much hope that we sell out of books tonight. Not so that y'all don't get the books, but I hope we do. And if we do, where can they get a hold of your books? Is there anywhere to buy it locally? Is it online? What are the best ways to do that?
So you can order them straight from me on my website at Words from the Wilderness. I sell them on there. In addition, Black Ribbon Bookstore, which has just opened downtown and is our first and I believe only independent bookstore in Hot Springs.
If you haven't had a chance to go there, it's a wonderful little space. It's in the Arlington Mall.
Yes.
And it happens to be right next to a vinyl record store, which makes it kind of a cool little combo that you can go to. Anyway, my friend Nanette runs the bookstore, and she's fantastic.
And she already has these books on order, so they will be there very soon if you want to purchase them there. But yes, you can buy them from me tonight. You can buy them from our website or from Amazon. The ebook is on Amazon as well. And if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free with Kindle Unlimited. And then, of course, if you go to Estes Park, you can buy from the bookstore there.
From the local author
Yes.
section. Fantastic. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for thrice published author Ashlyn Ohm for being here tonight. And you've got a few more books to sign, I think.
do, yes.
Thank you all so
Thank
much.
you.